Why is Bitcoin sort of not wildly off to the races yet?
Well, we're going to discuss that today. Welcome back to the Cryptoviser podcast. In today's video, we're going to be discussing Raoul Pal saying now that we have a 5-year cycle and the 4-year cycle is over. No, it's not, guys. As we've discussed on this channel many, many times, the cycle is doing exactly what the cycle does. We're going to go through it in depth. We're going to show you some evidence and actual data to prove where the market cycle is and to show you a little bit of that. The S&P 500 is the most vulnerable since April, according to BTIG. This is the Cryptoviser podcast. We talk about everything crypto, blockchain, investing, and other news in the finance space. Sometimes we do deep dives into individual assets, and sometimes we talk about the macro environment and dig a little bit deeper to understand what we should be investing in, when we should be investing in it, and understand potential risk-free trades, as Raoul Pal says. So do me a favor, give this video a free thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss a new video. We're going to get back to that Raoul Pal video in just a minute, but let's understand what BTIG is saying here. BTIG, which is a bank, warned over the next few weeks, equities or stocks are the most vulnerable to a downside move since the April lows. And this, as we're approaching the end of the year, we're now in Q4, right? Government shutdown, all of this stuff that's been going on that we knew about and we've been talking about on this channel. The bank pointed to stressed valuations and signs of weakness in several corners of the market, saying high volatility names were as extended as they've ever been. We're starting to see those reverse lower, along with many other areas like retail favorites. Private equity, meanwhile, suffered the worst decline since April. They noted that investor complacency has become more evident. They said the 5 DMA of the equity put-call ratio is down to 0.49, near lows of the year. Sentiment surveys have been creeping higher, and speculative names have been going parabolic. And this is something that we've been talking about, specifically with Bitcoin and crypto. Bitcoin is literally at all-time record highs, $125,000, $110,000 over the last 6 months. And people are like, no, Cryptoviser, we're not at the top of the market. It's like, no, we literally are at the top, right? We may not be at the tippy top for what the future holds, but for where we are today, it's the top of the market. It's the all-time record highs. And many cryptos are also at all-time record highs. And people are like, no, Cryptoviser, we're not at all-time highs. It's like, no, we are. We are. And that just shows the sentiment of where we are in the cycle. If you guys look at the Bitcoin halving tracker, which is right here on the screen, we are now where the historical last cycle and cycle before that, the 2017 and 2021 cycle tops hit when you're looking at days since the halving. And now we're literally at that same time, but people are at Cryptoviser. We haven't had a parabolic run. We're not in euphoria in the markets yet. It's like, no. Just because you're not in euphoria doesn't mean that we're not in euphoria. And by the way, when you're at the top of the market, you don't know it's the top of the market until afterwards. And that brings us to Raoul Pal. Magoo on X said, when our models are wrong, we just adjust them and claim the model is still valid, basically risk-free. And we hear this from Raoul Pal all the time since even the last cycle. And I remind you, in September, in 2021, Raoul Pal, he rotated out of some positions and went full in on other positions. And people were like, wait, what? What, Raoul Pal? I thought that we were following the stock to flow model, which was a complete and utter failure. It was the rug pull from the last cycle for many investors. In this cycle, I actually think it's MicroStrategy is the indicator here. And we're going to get to MicroStrategy and all of these Bitcoin treasury companies in a minute. But I want to remind you, Raoul Pal has been pushing this extended cycle thesis. And listen, it's a thesis, just like my thesis is that the cycle is basically in stages and potentially rotating into a bear market already as we're entering Q4 2025. But Raoul Pal has been pushing this extended cycle, and now he believes that the 4-year cycle is now a 5-year cycle. Guys, go back to 2021 and look at Raoul Pal's videos from then when he was like, oh yeah, we rotated out of these positions because we knew it was going to be the top for these kind of cryptos. And everyone was like, wait, that's not what you said. But you guys have to pay attention, right? Raoul Pal is not your financial advisor. I am not your financial advisor. And so he's trading for what he's trading for. Now, whether he believes this and he's really fully invested, I don't know. I've never seen his wallet, but let's listen to exactly what he says about where we are in the cycle. Because again, everything has a reason, right? In the previous cycle, the stock to flow model, they're like, oh, this stock to flow model still, I mean, they're still pushing the stock to flow model, even though it failed in the previous cycle. I'm not saying Raoul Pal, but generally speaking, the stock to flow model people, the same way that the MicroStrategy crew, even though the trade is over for the cycle, they keep pushing, no, Cryptoviser, this is the most bullish we've ever been. It's like, how are you the most bullish when Michael Saylor is selling shares on the open market and diluting your shares? Oh, Cryptoviser, it's bullish. And remember what I said, when we're at the end stages of the cycle, everything is bullish, right? Bitcoin going up, that's bullish. Bitcoin going down, that's bullish. MicroStrategy diluting their shares, that's also bullish. The economy shutting down or the government shutting down, that's also bullish. The debt increasing, that's also bullish. Gold going up, that's bullish. But when gold goes down, that's also bullish. Everything is bullish. If everything is bullish, nothing is bullish. Let's listen to what Raoul Pal says here. And by the way, don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. We upload every single day to bring you the latest happening in the financial world. We called the top of the market last cycle. We called the bottom of the market last cycle. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of calling it this cycle. Let's get into it.
Why is Bitcoin sort of not wildly off to the races yet?
First of all, it is, right? Bitcoin hit $125,000. And as I explained, as the cycles go on, you can see it on the chart. This is data that I'm showing you. It's not like my opinion. This is the data. Every single cycle, from the first cycle to the second cycle to the third cycle to this fourth cycle, we've had diminishing returns in terms of percentage gains. And that's because more participants are in, there's more products to counterbalance the trading. There's more people countering the trade, right? If you're bullish, they're bearish. If you're longing the stock or the crypto, they're shorting it. And so the more products that you have in the market, it doesn't work the same way. This is why a lot of altcoins have not pumped to the levels that people thought they would. This is why we're seeing kind of earlier. It seems like earlier in the cycle that we're hitting tops, but it's at the same exact time if you're looking at on it from a Bitcoin chart. Because remember, the Bitcoin halvings occur earlier and earlier because, in 2020, the Bitcoin halving was in May. 2024, it was in April. And so everything else in the cycle gets pushed up. But people still think, oh no, November is going to be the top. November is going to be the top. It was last cycle. It's like, but this is not last cycle. We're in this cycle. Anyway, so why is Bitcoin not off to the races, Raoul? Let's listen in.
And it's this chart.
This chart explains everything, right? This one chart explains everything. I'm being sarcastic, but he's not.
Bitcoin is basically, this is a detrended Bitcoin, and it's basically the ISM, which is the business cycle. Remember, we've always said it's the business cycle stupid. It is always the business cycle stupid. And all of these people who claim it's the 4-year cycle based around this and that, they don't understand the fundamental of what the business cycle is, why there's a 4-year cycle and everything. And we've explained it. We'll go through it in great detail tomorrow in our Everything Code presentation. But basically, it's following the ISM.
Guys, this is nonsense. And at the end of the day, Raoul Pal, his viewpoint is that we're not done with the bull run. And granted, like in the long term, we're not done with the bull run. I expect, based on these charts, that we're going to go downtrend for about a year, and then we're going to uptrend after that. And then you know what they're going to say? Oh, you see, we told you the bull run was going to be in 2026. But it's like, no, that's exactly what the chart is showing us, right? If we've already topped in the middle of 2025, we go down into the middle of 2026, and then we go up into 2027. He's going to say, oh, you see, that was the business cycle. That was the business cycle. It's like, no, that was the 4-year cycle. Like, quite literally. Like, I don't know how somebody can look at this chart and say, no, Cryptoviser, we're not at the top of the market yet. Look at the previous cycles. It's like we're literally at the same point in the previous cycles. And every single cycle has been diminishing returns. Again, you can come up with a thesis for anything, but again, a thesis is just a thesis. What's a hypothesis? It's a question, right? You're trying to prove your hypothesis is either true or not true. But anybody can come up with a chart to, I've seen this over and over. I mean, stock to flow shows this, the ISM. You could put it on anything. People always say, but Cryptoviser M2 money supply is higher. It's like, but that doesn't, it may have some correlation, but to correlate the entire crypto cycle and say that there's no 4-year cycle because the ISM, this is as simple as this. It's just as simple as the stock to flow model, simple as just accretive dilution with MicroStrategy. It gets very exhausting because I'm not trying to convince anybody. I just don't understand how people are this I don't know, naive in their belief. Everything that we've said that was going to occur in this cycle has already occurred, right? Or is in the process of occurring. We told you the MNAV for these Bitcoin treasury companies was going to collapse. We told you there was going to be a 95% decline in a lot of these treasury companies, and people are like, no, Cryptoviser, this is the most bullish I've ever been. And it's like, well, look at Nakamoto, 95%. Just since May, in August to September, another 95% drop. But Cryptoviser, no, this is so bullish. It's like, okay, so you keep buying as we're rotating into a bear market, and then you're going to be here next year and you're going to have nothing because everything's going to be down 95%. We on this channel, we are going to get into the winners. And by the way, there are going to be winners because a macro bear market for crypto does not mean that there's not opportunity to make money. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But let's continue listening to this chart explains everything.
And rates have been following the same pattern.
Oh, look, another chart. Just boom, all these charts, and you overlay and say, well, this explains everything. Guys, remember what I told you about charting, right? I look at charts sometimes to look for patterns in, like I just showed you the Bitcoin halving chart, right? So I see diminishing returns every cycle. Pretty much this 550 days from the Bitcoin halving typically is the top. And so I'm not taking this as like gospel, for instance, but I am looking at this and putting it with my other data to formulate my hypothesis and my thesis and then act on it. And remember, like, he has been wrong many, many times in the past and did not call the top of the market, did not call the bottom of the market. We did on this channel. Anyway, let's continue listening in.
See, rates should have come lower. They need to come lower because we need to roll the debt. We've talked about this. That's part of the everything code, fundamental part. And ISM, because rates are so high, has meant that Main Street has been screwed while Wall Street's made money from debasement. Earnings versus scarce assets. This is the issue that they need to solve, and they need to get rates lower. They get rates lower. Why? Why do we have an elongated business cycle that looks like virtually no other time? It's because, and I only just found this out redoing the work on the everything code recently, is that in 2021-22, they actually extended the maturity of the debt from 4 years to 5 years. So that extension of the maturity of debt has pushed out the business cycle a year. The 4-year cycle this time around is a 5-year cycle. We don't know what the next one will be until we see where they all end up getting refinanced. Whether it comes back to 4 because they managed to get some stuff at the long end, or whether they shorten it because everything's in the short end. We don't know yet. But this one is a 5-year cycle. And this is what it looks like. The 5.4-year sine curve, 5.4 years is the exact average weighted maturity of the debt. And it tells us the ISM should peak by 2026. We think liquidity probably peaks before that, as the rate of change of ISM changes and the rate of change of liquidity changes. Our best guess remains well into 2026, probably Q2.
So basically a baked-in code for Bitcoin of a 4-year cycle is now turning into a 5-year cycle. Okay, if that's what you believe, good luck. Good luck, because we are also hearing and seeing Mike Novogratz on the financial news channels almost every single day now. And again, this doesn't happen during a bear market, right? I haven't seen Mike Novogratz. I wasn't even sure he was fully in crypto until just recently. Where was he in the bear market? Where was he in the bull market in 2024? Nowhere to be seen. But now at the end stages of the cycle, he's getting into some of these speculative plays like we've talked about, and saying that the crypto market structure bill will pass soon, and this will unleash tremendous amounts of money. But here's the deal. We've been hearing this for years. Oh, they're going to pass the Clarity Act. They're going to pass market structure bill. They're going to pass this. Whether they do or don't, I don't think the market really cares. I mean, it could help the market, but it could also indicate the top of the market. Because remember, in 2017 and 2021, when they launched Bitcoin futures, that was effectively the end of the cycle. And meanwhile, the SEC and FINRA are probing suspicious stock trades before the crypto treasury company announcements. What? You mean that there was potential insider trading on these Bitcoin treasury company? No way, no way. The SEC and FINRA are probing stock trading patterns that occurred before digital asset treasury companies announced plans to purchase cryptos. The officials have cautioned some companies about potential violations of the regulation fair disclosure. Meaning, like, if you know because an insider is telling you, hey, we're going to get into this Bitcoin treasury thing, and then you go buy, you're buying based on inside information. And people who don't think that this is true, I mean, just look at Metaplanet. Metaplanet is not even a really US-based company. It's a Japanese company. And we've had a round trip. this year. Everybody was so bullish. And now we're down 73% just in 3 or 4 months. 73%. And by the way, they did a 10-to-1 stock split earlier in the year as well. Didn't seem to help anything. Nakamoto, we just covered before. It's down 95%, and Bitcoin is still at all-time record highs effectively. What is going to happen to this company if Bitcoin gets cut by 30%, 40%, or 50%? What do you think is going to happen? And what do you think these insiders who've been literally been selling? I mean, the CEO David Bailey wrote on X that he's watching the inside investors or early investors selling off, and it's almost done. The selling is almost done. So he's confirming that the insiders are selling. So an insider who got in or helped support like the conversion to a digital asset treasury company just a few months ago, and they're already selling their coin, their stock immediately as soon as they can, that is a huge red flag because they don't even have confidence in the company, right? And so where are we in the cycle? This is the liquidity extraction phase. And liquidity extraction phase is literally the end of the cycle because once the liquidity is extracted and the bulls have no more money to keep buying the market because they're buying, right? Every dip that I see, they're like Cryptoviser, you got to buy the dip, 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 buy the dip. And meanwhile, this is not a dip. This is a rotation into a bear market. And by the way, bear markets can last for 1 month. They can last for 3 months. They can last for a year. They can last for multiple years. So when you hear bear market, don't just think like, oh my God, like it collapsed. No, a bear market is a correction. And we haven't even wiped out the leverage in the market yet. How do I know this? Because every dip, people keep buying. And this is why the drops in the prices recently has been very slow. Okay, so let's look at MicroStrategy for a quick second. Because as I've been explaining, there's a puff of air under MicroStrategy. Like it should be around the $200 price just based on the Bitcoin that they hold, but lower because Bitcoin's going to go down. But Bitcoin hasn't even gone down yet. That's what I want you to remember. Bitcoin is not even really down. It's not under $100,000. And just year to date, we're basically where we started the year. So if you own MicroStrategy in January, you would be flat. And people keep buying the dip, even though they're buying from Michael Saylor, who's selling shares on the open market. And they don't see that that is really bearish. And so the reason that we're seeing this kind of slow decline in the price, and it's not like, it's not dropping similar to Nakamoto, is because there's more MicroStrategy bulls than there are Nakamoto bulls. And so the MicroStrategy bulls, they keep buying these dips. And they're trying to hold the market up. And they may be able to do this for a while, but eventually they're going to run out of money. Eventually, they're going to change their thesis when they see the continued decline and continued dilution of the stock. And because it's so closely connected to Bitcoin, if that occurs while Bitcoin is dropping, puff of air under the stock. And so if you look at the psychology of market charts, right, we're probably in complacency phase right now, where you're seeing slow declines, but then the bulls buy it up. And then a slow decline based on fundamentals, bulls buy it up. But once the bulls can't buy it anymore, look at what the chart does. Straight down. Straight down. Now, what straight down means, I don't know. Like I said, if you just look at MicroStrategy's MNAV, it should be at 1. So that means you have to take about a third of the price off, which is basically around $200. And in a declining Bitcoin price, it's going to be even lower than that. And so we can approach that similar to Banana Zone going higher. We can see Banana Zone going lower. And remember what my thesis has been, right? From the top of the market to the bottom of the market is basically 1 year. And so if we are rotating into a bear market, you can see the top of the market last year was November 20th. And you see the run up from September into November 20th went from $150 all the way up to the 400 whatever dollars. It went up 200%. I think that we're going to see the opposite happen this year. And so we're already starting the decline. And you can see the decline gets more intensified and then more intensified and then even straight up But if you invert this straight down, and I said this at the beginning of September, and I had people on my videos saying, Cryptoviser, you just inverted a chart and you think that that's investing? No, I think that that's formulating a thesis based on data and based on the previous cycles, how the bull markets and bear markets operate. And so, yeah, I do think by November 20th, we're going to see much lower prices in MicroStrategy. Now, I could be wrong, and maybe we're going to go back up. But based on what? Based on, oh, well, Raoul Pal said, the extended cycle, because we're now in a 5-year business cycle. It's like, what does the business cycle have to do with the Bitcoin price and the Bitcoin chart and MicroStrategy diluting their shares and having a harder time accumulating cash? And they have to pay about $50 or so million a month in dividends. And the only way that they could pay those dividends is by selling the shares in the stock. And so they're diluting the stock to pay dividends in their debt facilities. Explain how that's bullish. And by the way, right now, who's funding that? Because people are like, oh, Cryptoviser, we have retirement funds buying MicroStrategy. It's like, okay, are you a retirement fund? Do you have that kind of money that you can throw around and lose potentially? Because all of these pension funds in the previous cycle were investing in FTX. They weren't investing in Coinbase or in Kraken or in Gemini. They were investing in FTX, and they all lost it. Meanwhile, the Ethereum treasuries are doing the same thing. Pumps and then dumps. Pumps and then dumps. And look at this, Sequins, which is another Bitcoin treasury company. They're lower than they were before they announced they were a Bitcoin treasury company. Same thing with Nakamoto. Same thing with a lot of these other companies as well. Imagine that. They become a Bitcoin or crypto treasury company, and now they're lower stock price than they were before. Well, that's bullish. I don't know what to tell you. Meanwhile, Michael Saylor's saying, keep the Bitcoin. Don't sell your Bitcoin. That's what he always says, right? Don't buy low, sell high. Just hold the Bitcoin forever. How's that working out? Meanwhile, we're also seeing these treasury companies continuing to dilute. Bit Digital, which is now an Ethereum treasury company, and they're also a Bitcoin mining. I think they moved away from Bitcoin mining. But either way, September 25th, Bit Digital held a general meeting, and basically they got the approval by a 67% vote that basically they're increasing the number of shares from 340 million shares to 1 billion shares. Got to get Dr. Evil on the screen for that. Okay, so think about that, right? Michael Saylor increased last year or the year before from 300 million to 10 billion shares. And now Bit Digital increased from 350 million, 340 million to a billion. And why are they doing this? Because they're going to sell more shares on the market. How is that like a good thing for the stock? Nobody can explain this. They're going to sell shares in the open market by a factor of tripling the number of actual shares in the market. And so 67% of the shareholders said, oh yeah, this is a great idea. Dilute us. I think that this is a terrible idea because it's not a business thesis or business strategy just to dilute shareholders forever, to buy another asset that literally at all-time record highs. And where's Bit Digital? On the 1 year, down 22%. Year to date, it's flat. In the 6-month chart, it's up a little bit, but that's because they made the announcement about their treasury thesis around here in the middle of the year. Guys, a puff of air under these companies. Meanwhile, we're now seeing 0 days to expiration covered call ETFs for IBIT, which is BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF. And so now we have even more products being built on top of these crypto products. And they're all meant to divert money away from the actual asset. I mean, think about it. What is MicroStrategy doing? It's moving money from your pockets into their pockets so that they could buy Bitcoin that you don't even own and have no claim to if you're just a MicroStrategy shareholder. And they think you're stupid. They think that you're literally stupid because nobody would buy that product. I mean, even Michael Saylor is telling you, buy the Bitcoin, keep the Bitcoin, don't buy MicroStrategy. people are like, no, it's so bullish. We're going to have a 5 MNAV. It's like, no, it's going to be under 1 MNAV. And people who are in the markets, if you've been on my channel for a while, you are probably well aligned with this thesis at least, or at least understand how ridiculous this whole thing is. And this is not investing. It's not how markets operate. And so all of this over exuberance and over leverage from these strategy companies, from these individuals who are investing in it, and now we have 0 days to option covered call ETFs on IBIT. This is all meant to, again, divert money away. This is why Bitcoin's not going banana zone as everybody expected, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and the rest of the market as well. Because the money is being diverted away from your shit coins like PP coin and Dogecoin and Shiba Inu coin and all these other coins. They're being diverted to these other products that people are investing in. We've talked about MSTY, Yield Max ETFs, and I told you, Yield Max ETFs can be very, very lucrative for an investment portfolio, but only in a bull market. And now we're rotating out, and what's happening to all of these yield max ETFs specifically in the crypto space? They're all losing value, and the dividends are getting lower and lower. I mean, just look at this. Year to date, we're down 50% on yield max. Now people will say, but Cryptoviser, you're earning 8% yield a month in dividends. Yeah, but you're paying 50% tax on that, or 40% tax, whatever the number is. A very high amount of tax is considered normal income, and you're being diluted 50%. So did you make, let's see, it went down from $31 down to, it's down actually 60%. It's basically down $20. Did you make $20 per share? And you may have, but then minus your taxes, how much did you really make? A lot of people are not thinking about this. They're just saying, oh, I'm going to ride it out. Well, you could ride it down, literally down to zero. Because in my view, in a bear market, these products are going very, very close, if not to zero, and maybe going to be shut down. But Cryptoviser, that's not going to happen. That's okay. Listen, you don't have to agree with what I'm saying. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to lay out my analysis and my thoughts on the market. And so now we have Tuttle Capital Management is launching the industry's first 0 days to expiry covered call ETFs on IBIT. And so effectively, this seeks to deliver income and capital appreciation while addressing the risk of overnight market moves. So I'm not going to go through what a 0 day to expiry covered call option is, but I would definitely recommend going and looking at it. Very hard to make money in this. And it's also, I think, made to manipulate the market to the downside. Meanwhile, analysts say these Bitcoin miners are a buy on AI demand. And this goes into the trades that we can make, because guys, remember what I always say, like in a downtrending market, bulls make money, bears make money, greed, pigs go to the slaughterhouse, right? And so this is really important to keep in mind, because you can make money on the downside and you can make money outside of crypto. And a lot of these companies, like the Bitcoin mining companies that have pivoted to AI, they are doing the right thing. And we've been talking about this all year, and that's why we've made massive moves to the in. I mean, I would say if you have been trading crypto or holding crypto and or these Bitcoin mining companies that have pivoted to AI, you've probably made significantly more money in the Bitcoin mining companies that moved to AI, significantly more. TerraWolf, $2 to $12, and Google owns 15%. Now we're talking about BITFARMS as well, right? BITFARMS, their CEO, Ben, he said, nice consolidation, I bought the dip. And he bought $100,000 more of BITFARMS in the end of September. He bought $100,000 earlier in September. We've seen the price go from 70 cents, about 68 cents at the low, to $3 and something cents. So it's gone up significantly already, and I think it's going much higher. And when you see a CEO in a company that's transitioning into a bigger business where money is flowing, because guys, you have to remember these AI infrastructure plays, they don't care whether OpenAI makes money or not. They don't care whether Google Gemini makes money or not, because those companies need the infrastructure to run their large language models and AI compute. And so they're the infrastructure for it, right? It's just like an electricity company. They don't care whether you're a millionaire or whether you're poor. They know they're going to get money if you're using their electricity, right? And so this is the same play here. And in my view, seeing the CEO with this much conviction in his own company at these much more elevated prices, I think it's a signal, right? Because he can't say, we are about to have an AI deal. He can't say we're going to have an infrastructure deal. But if you've been following BitFarms, I think it's very clear based on what we're seeing with TeraWulf, Cipher Mining. Cipher Mining, as an example, just signed a 168 megawatt 10-year AI hosting agreement with Fluid Stack. And so Cipher Mining, let's look at their stock real quick. CIFR. It's at, I think, all-time record highs. Not really, but basically multi-year highs. You can see in 2023 went from 54 cents all the way up to now over $11, $10, which is 2,100% return, 21x. And people are like, but Cryptoviser, when is altcoin season? I need XRP to do 20x. When is XRP going to do 20x? It's probably not going to. I mean, I just think it's not going to. I think these companies are the trade. I really do. And so we see that CleanSpark now secured a $100 million in Bitcoin-backed financing from Coinbase Prime. The American Bitcoin mining firm said it expanded its Bitcoin-backed credit facility with Coinbase Prime by $100 million. The company plans to utilize this funding to expand energy infrastructure and scale up its mining operations. Now, I definitely think that, expanding energy is good. Mining operations, probably not, especially in a bear market, unless they're preparing to raise that money and then in the bear market, build up their Bitcoin mining fleet. That would be pretty smart. But going back to BitFarms, got some iced coffee in today's video, a little watered down, but really good. Really, really good. Anyway, back to BitFarms. When we see all of this happening in the space, and then we see the CEO buying and buying, to me, it's a signal that he believes in the company. He believes in the vision of where the company's going. And he's telling you this by his trade. He can't tell you what they're doing because maybe the deals haven't been done yet. But if you see what's happening with CleanSpark, with Cipher Mining, with TeraWulf, I think that you guys can pretty much figure out what's going to occur with BitFarms. And that probably means that they're going to be getting a deal very, very soon because they already have the energy infrastructure. They already have the facilities set up. They're already expanding their facilities. They're coming to the United States and going to be domiciling in the US. Currently, it's a Canadian company. All of these things are extremely bullish. No matter what happens with Bitcoin and crypto, everybody's like, Cryptoviser, what happens if Bitcoin goes down? It's like, who gives a shit? BitFarms literally said they're not expanding their Bitcoin mining operations. All of the money that they make from Bitcoin mining is going straight into expanding their AI infrastructure. That's very bullish. That's very bullish. And that's what we're looking for. Where can we make money in this rotation phase? The trade for MicroStrategy is over. The trade for MSTY is over. The trade for Nakamoto and all these other treasury companies, it's over for this cycle because the cycle is effectively over. So that means that we have to look for other opportunities. And those opportunities, in my view, are in the infrastructure for AI because AI is the next big thing. Meanwhile, we're also seeing Circle, right? Another example of, we're at the end stages of the cycle. It's now a publicly traded company. They have now a lot of competition from all these other, stablecoin providers. And so now Circle is exploring reversible USDC transactions in break from the crypto ethos. Circle is reportedly examining reversible transactions to help recover funds from frauds and hacks, which appear to counter one of crypto's founding principles that transactions are final and beyond centralized control. Circle president told the Financial Times that the company is examining mechanisms that could allow transactions to be rolled back in cases of fraud or hacks while still maintaining settlement finality. Now, you guys have to understand, they already do this, right? They're talking about this because they need to make it a little bit more more of a public thing because they're a publicly traded company, and make sure that people understand like your money is safe with Circle. They already do this though, right? Circle and Tether, if there's hacks or stuff like that, they already freeze the money. Now, I don't know that they're going to like roll back, but I definitely think that they could do like a refund, right? Similar to like credit card companies. And by the way, they may actually eat the cost of it in certain circumstances, right? If you have a credit card company and they have a fraud transaction and it's like $3, I would imagine the credit card company is probably just eating that amount, right? They're self-insured. Larger transactions, obviously, they work with the merchant to figure out like what's going on there. But you know, whether they call it reversible or refundable, they're going to do this. Tether does it, Circles does it. They're just going to do it in a more public way to make sure that people understand that your money is safe. The same way that if your money gets stolen from a bank, right, the bank is probably going to refund you. And I think that's actually a good thing because it creates more trust in the system. And I understand crypto is about, being trustless, but, stable coins are centralized parties. They're not. And these decentralized stable coins, they don't work. They've failed since they started. And every project that is even attempting to do that, it's a waste of time and a waste of money. And it's also an indicator of what you shouldn't be putting your money into. Circle also tapped Crossman to expand stablecoin rails for humans and AI. And so this could be really lucrative for Circle as well, which is a publicly traded company, because now they're getting into AI as well. Everything leads to AI. And so sometimes, even if you're bullish on crypto in the long term, you have to look at the charts, look at where we are in the cycle and say, okay, cycle's over, on to the next trade for now. And we'll get back to crypto when we reach the bottom, which is not going to be tomorrow, not going to be the day after that, but probably within 6 to 12 months from the top. And we don't know when the top is, if we already hit it, if it's going to be hit in the future, but within 6 to 12 months, we'll know where the top was, and then we can identify 6 to 12 months from then. And, like I said, there's going to be a lot of bulls that are going to continue to try to buy this top and keep the prices up. But the fundamentals will take shape and take precedent over the pumpamentals. And just be very cautious of these things about there's no more 4-year cycle, it's over. No, the moves to the upside where we're seeing, thousands and thousands of percent gains, everybody's chasing those same gains. So if everybody's bullish, the market can't be that bullish because you're going to have the people front running you. Let's say you're going to sell at 200,000, they're going to sell at 150. And then there's going to be people selling at 160, 161, 162. And they're going to front run you to get out, and you'll never hit those prices. And so be very cautious of, banana zone and this and that. We're going higher to thousands of percentages higher. Over the course of time, we will. But for now, in my view, the cycle effectively for crypto is over. See you guys in the next video. Don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up. We upload every single day on this channel to bring you the latest happening in the financial world. So hit that subscribe button. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you agree with my thesis? Do you think that we're already at the top? Do you think that the kind of slow move down right now is just the bulls buying these dips to try to hold the market up? But eventually, the bulls, they will capitulate. But they're going to capitulate at much lower prices. See you guys in the next video. Crypto on.